He was not born a saint, but a soldier. Richard I of England, son of Henry II, destined for legend. Tall, fiery, and fearless, he was a man who spoke little and fought much. His enemies called him cruel. His soldiers called him king. But history remembers him by a single name, the Lionheart. When Jerusalem fell to Saladin, the world of Christendom burned in shame. From that fire, Richard rose, a king who would cross oceans for faith, for honor, and for glory, to face the greatest warrior of the East, Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub. Part 1. The Call to Crusade. The year was 1187. The cross had fallen, and the world trembled. News of Jerusalem's loss spread like wildfire through Europe. Kings prayed, knights wept. He was crowned king in 1189, his heart already set on the East. From the moment the crown touched his head, he vowed that his sword would not rest until the holy city was free again. Pope Gregory VIII called for a new crusade, and Europe's mightiest rulers swore allegiance to the cause. Richard of England, Philip of France, and Frederick Barbarossa of the Empire. But crusades were never pure. Kings distrusted kings. Each sought glory for himself, not God. Yet among them, Richard's zeal burned brightest. He sold his lands, emptied his treasury, and even said, "I would sell London itself if I could find a buyer." As ships gathered at French ports, the drums of war thundered again. This was no army of faith. It was a storm. And Richard was its heart. For in his mind, there was no retreat, no surrender, only one road. And it led to Jerusalem. The Lionheart had answered the call. The Third Crusade had begun. Part 2. Journey to the East. The sea was his battlefield before the Holy Land ever saw his shadow. In 1190, Richard sailed from France with a fleet that stretched beyond sight, soldiers, priests, and banners painted with the Red Cross. But storms scattered his ships across the Mediterranean. Some were lost, others wrecked, and fate guided him to the island of Cyprus. There, the local ruler, Isaac Comnenus, dared to defy him. He mocked the English king, imprisoned his men, and refused surrender. Richard answered as only the Lionheart could, with fire and steel. In days, Cyprus fell. The ruler was chained in silver, and the island became a Crusader stronghold. Richard's name echoed across the sea. He wed Berengaria of Navarre, yet his heart belonged not to her, but to the cross he bore. The wedding feast ended, and the journey continued. The Lion sailed east, to a land where faith and fury had no end. Ahead waited Acre, a city besieged for 2 years. Thousands starved, thousands bled, and hope was dying. But when Richard's sails appeared on the horizon, the Crusaders cheered, for the Lionheart had come. And where the lion roared, men believed victory was possible again. Part 3. The Clash with Saladin. At Acre, the ground was soaked in blood. Richard's arrival changed everything. Under his command, siege engines thundered, walls crumbled, and Saladin's forces broke after months of struggle. But victory came with a price. Thousands of prisoners, and a king's cruel choice. When Saladin delayed the ransom, Richard ordered the execution of 2,700 captives. Mercy was a luxury neither side could afford, yet Saladin respected him. He saw in Richard not a butcher, but a warrior who fought with honor. Their armies clashed again at Arsuf, where the Muslim cavalry struck in waves, and the Crusader line wavered under the desert sun. But Richard held fast, charging at the perfect moment, leading from the front. The field was red with dust and valor. Saladin withdrew, undefeated, but not victorious. In battle after battle, the two kings tested each other's spirit. They never met face to face. Part 4. The Legacy of the Lion. For months, Richard marched toward Jerusalem, but the city always slipped from his grasp. He could see its walls from the hills, yet never set foot within. His men were weary, the sun merciless, and his enemies unbroken. In 1192, both kings knew the truth. The Holy Land would bleed forever if the war did not end, so they made peace. Saladin would keep Jerusalem, but Christian pilgrims could visit freely. It was not the victory Richard dreamed of, but in respect. Saladin sent Richard gifts of fruit and horses when he fell ill. Richard praised the Sultan's honor before his knights. The Lionheart returned home. He never saw the Holy Land again. History remembers many conquerors, but only a few earn the admiration of their enemies. Richard the Lionheart and Saladin, two men divided by faith, united by honor.